Hi Huong, I hope that's how you pronounce your name. It's Martin Hill, Swim Smooth coach. What I thought I'd do first is to have a look at this one, the Courtyard Marriott final. And I guess that this is probably the one that is more accurate in terms of just your training swimming. So we'll look at this one first, and then I'll have a look at the other one where you're obviously swimming a little bit faster. And what we can see here, obviously just pushed off, and I think Paul may have mentioned this in terms of your head position, that when you're pushing off, and it sounds quite trivial, but when you do push off, try to get yourself into a really good streamlined position first. And the reason for that is that you can see there where you are in terms of your head position in particular. As you push off with big, strong, powerful leg muscles, you're actually just slowing yourself down. And with your face looking forwards as you are, and it may be different because you're in a different pool, I'm not sure, but effectively your face there is a big break, and your hands as well, if you could just keep them both together and try to get yourself as streamlined at the front as you can do, because the more you can use that streamline effect at the beginning of the push off and every turn that you do in a swimming pool, the more that will really cross into your normal swimming, so the more aligned you'll be. So if we go on from there, you can see how your head is quite still looking forwards. Also, you're holding your breath for quite a long time, and as you then pull through, that's when you first start to release the breath. So you've actually held your breath for quite a long time, and I think Paul mentioned this in his initial email to you. Quite important to, as soon as your face is in the water, to start to exhale continuously. A number of reasons for that, and I think Paul had mentioned it in his email about it tends to build up carbon dioxide, which then leads to you being anxious. And in addition, because you're effectively holding a tank of air in your lungs, it makes the upper body quite buoyant. And if your upper body is buoyant, it will make that lift out of the water. Obviously not completely out of the water, but what that does is that your hips are effectively a hinge point, and if your upper body is high, your lower body, i.e. your legs, will be low. So it's really important for a number of reasons to start to exhale more or less as soon as your face is in the water. A quick look now at where your arm position is. And you can see there, I'm not sure if you're aware of what that is called, but it's effectively called a dropped elbow. And the importance of that is that once that has happened, it becomes very difficult for you to then catch the water effectively. And you can see what I mean by that, because as you're then pulling through there, although your hand here is actually now catching the water, you're still effectively pushing water down that way and down that way. So you're not yet being propulsive with that hand. And as we look at this hand, you can see how it's actually coming thumb first there. So it's coming in thumb first, and we'll see it on some shots later how it then goes down and then again effectively pushes down flat with no real catch until you're there, no real propulsion, if you like, until you're about there. So we'll just follow this through for a while. I'm not sure how you feel in the water, but your body is not too bad in terms of being horizontal. What you can see from this shot though is not a massive amount, but you can see how your legs do start to scissor out there. And I'm sure you're not trying to do that yourself, that's just a reaction of what's happening up at the front end. It's quite hard to see from this distance, but I think what's happening is that you're breathing at that stage, and you're using a hand as an arm as support. Your body is starting to effectively slide into the water whilst you're breathing and using that support, and your legs splay out to try to counterbalance that. As I say, not a lot we can see from this. There's a lot more that we see when you turn around and come back down the opposite way. So if we just move on a little bit and have a look from the head-on shot, which is quite revealing. Just in general terms, I don't know, again, you can see how if I can try to zoom in on that. You can see that again, like I said before, not too bad in terms of streamlining body-wise, but your head sticking up there is just acting as a big break. So if you could retain that same position with your arms, stretch out maybe a little bit more, put one hand on top of the other one, but then tuck your head right the way down into your arms so that your head is squashed effectively between your biceps with your face looking directly down, and that will really get you streamlined much better. As you push off and come towards the camera, you can see there that you've pushed off and you're taking your first breath. And this is where I said that I think your legs are starting to splay out, because you can see this hand. What is happening here is that you're effectively using this arm and the hand as a support. You can even see that your hand is actually more horizontal, so whilst your arm is pushing down straight, your hand is fairly flat and horizontal, and what you're doing there is pushing water downwards, and that is helping to lift your upper body upwards. And in some respects that's understandable, because you're obviously trying to breathe and you're trying to lift your head out of the water. But what I actually would like to see much better than that is a good catch position. So instead of there pushing straight down with a straight arm, a catch that is much more effective and effective throughout the whole stroke, whether you're breathing or not. Because what's happened there is that your body now is effectively almost on its side, and this is where your legs start to splay out that we saw on the other shot. As your hand is falling into the water, it's almost like your body is starting to tip over on its back, like you're falling off a bicycle. And what happens is that your legs will start to splay out, as you can see there. So there's one foot there and one foot there. So your legs are splaying out subconsciously. You're not aware of that and you're not doing it yourself, but they're doing that effectively to stop you falling onto your back. So once you've done that, you then quite quickly come back through and then carry on with your strokes. And if we just go back to effectively that same position, but one step closer, you can see how that arm is effectively quite straight. And we go back to there. Left hand comes in very, very quickly, trying to bring you back onto a horizontal balance, if you like. And it comes in the thumb first, as we saw before, and shoots right the way across the centre line. And then straightens out. And again, see how long and straight that is? And effectively pushing straight down and pushing water down. If I just, in this view, if I show you the video of a lady called Shelley Taylor-Smith, you may or may not have heard of her. She used to be she's retired now, but she used to be world champion open water long distance swimmer, and she would swim distances up to 70 kilometres, 80 kilometres in fact. But the really, really good thing about this is, if you watch her stroke, see how symmetrical it is, but also see how effectively she catches the water very, very early there, and then here, see how her forearm is bending at the elbow, and from here, which is still quite a long way ahead of herself, so her elbow there is much further forward than her shoulder, but from this point onwards she's got a really good catch in the water. And what she's got there is what is called the vertical forearm, or early vertical forearm. So you can see how from that point onwards she's catching the water and then pushes it straight back there, right the way to there. Then when that stroke is finishing there, you see her right hand is effectively doing exactly the same there, and then pushing it right back. So what she's doing is catching the water very, very early at the front and pushing water away right to the back. And if you watch now, when she's breathing, that stroke is exactly the same. So there's no difference between a breathing and a non-breathing stroke. And if we just skip back to where you were, and if I advance here, right the way through to a breathing stroke there. The comparison between yourselves, you see, is that at that stage Shelley is still catching water, she's rotated well, but you've actually gone right the way over almost to a vertical position, and you can see the difference in your arm positions if I move Shelley through there. So although she's got a very good rhythm and very good timing, what you're actually missing is this early stroke here, or early part of the stroke. So what we need to do is to try to get you to catch much earlier and try to keep your arms going in straight. Again, you can see the difference there. Shelley still pushing back, nice powerful stroke from there right the way down, pushing straight back with her hand and forearm. You can see how you're less powerful effectively. Your hand and your fingers are quite wide open, but another significant difference is that you can see where your hand is going right the way over the centre line, right the way over towards your right shoulder, whereas Shelley, her hand is actually going straight in front of her shoulder and in front of her left shoulder. So a couple of really important points there in terms of alignment and propulsion. So if we just carry on looking through now, I'll just backtrack a little bit, because although you go out of shots in this one, if we look back to there, that's where you've just taken a breath, and although we lose you for a minute, you see your hand shooting straight in, thumb first. If we follow you through from there, you can see there that you're actually holding your breath, and then you start to exhale effectively when you're then rotating to take your next breath in. And I think what's happening is, and it's hard for me to, or for you to actually visualise what I'm doing now, but it looks like what you're doing is effectively you take a breath into your left hand side, so you go head in the water, and then you hold it, and then and I hope that comes across clearly to you, because effectively what it looks like you're doing is that you're trying to exhale whilst you're trying to take a breath in, and that is actually really difficult, and that does lead to this anxiety, not anxiety particularly, but anxiety and carbon dioxide build-up. Your stroke rate, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, is roughly about 65-66 strokes per minute, which is not too bad. Could do with being a little bit higher, but I think that will naturally go higher once you start to work on the catch position in particular, and you work on improving the whole initial part of the stroke, because that will effectively get you into the stroke quicker, get you through completing the stroke quicker, and so will naturally start to increase the stroke rate anyway. What I'll do now, because it's quite interesting, the difference between your natural swimming, if you like, your normal stroke, and this one. So this one is where you were, I guess, where you were racing, or you were doing some hard sessions. This is actually one that is nice to see from above the water, because your stroke does look slightly different. Hand entry is quite good there, and I'm assuming that this is you from the email that you sent, and breathing consistently to your left hand side, and you can see there how your left hand goes in, going across the centre line again, and thumb first. So it's consistent with the picture that we saw in your slower swimming. Nice, actually quite a nice straight arm recovery. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, or what you look like, and I'm not sure what you're like in open water, but the kind of stroke that you've got there will actually naturally fit into a good open water stroke. It'd be interesting to know whether you swim better or worse with a pool boy. I suspect you probably do, and probably swim better in a wetsuit and in open water. So what we've got effectively is we've got a few things so far to work on. We've got breathing, and being consistently breathing out does really help in terms of being relaxed in the water. And if you're relaxed, then other things will start to be much easier to think about and much easier to do. So we need to work on breathing, and that will help your body position, help you being relaxed. We need to look at your alignment, and what that effectively means is keeping you straight in the water. So what we'll do for that is, and I'll cover those in a minute, we'll look at side kicking. I'm not sure whether you've done any of the drills before. Side kicking and also 616. The idea of those both is to really get your body position nice and straight and to get you swimming in a nice straight line. The other key things that you need to work on, as I said, are your catch. And I'm not sure, I'll just close those. I'm not sure whether you've done any kinds of drills for catch before, but the ones that I will show you are sculling and doggy paddle. The really important one initially, I think, is doggy paddle, and it sounds fairly simple and basic, but it's really good for getting that catch position. But I'll take you through the sequence of basic drills first. This one, if you notice that nice streamline position. So as I said, if you remember, your position was not too dissimilar to that. Probably just need to get a little bit smoother and a bit tighter there at front end. But if you remember, your head was up here. Looks like you're probably looking to see where you're going, but most streamlined is down there. So effectively trap your head down between your biceps, push off, start to kick, and then go straight into a stroke. And that is really easy to do, but is also really effective and carries across that streamlining effect into your whole swimming. So that's the first important drill that you need to do. The next drill, which is a really good one now for carrying over just the streamlining effect and the alignment, is what we call side kicking, or kicking on your side. Use fins for this. It's not cheating. They are an aid to actually helping what you need to do. The important part about this is that your body is on its side and your legs are kicking on the side. So if you're kicking with your left arm forwards, then your right shoulder and your right hip are facing upwards and your shoulder is probably out of the water. Your right hand and arm is just floating behind you. But the important part about this is that position there with your lead hand. And if you remember your hand position or arm position, where we said you've got a dropped elbow, I want you to really focus on keeping that kind of a position so that your fingertips are pointing down towards the opposite end of the pool. Your wrist is flexed and your elbow is slightly flexed as well. So the overall position of your arm is an arc down there. And the reason for that is that this effectively is going to be the start of your catch. And so you really need to get that position sorted out so that when you do start to swim and do the 616 drill, that hand is in a position to start stroking. And if you also notice, it's actually quite deep in the water. So it's not up at the surface, and you should never ever feel any water on the palm of your hand. If you feel anything, you should feel a flow of water, just a gentle flow across the top of your hand there. So very easy, just kicking on your side, exhaling all the time, and when you need to, just take a breath in. So you can see how nice and straight it is. And if you've got a pool like this where you've got a black line to follow, get yourself positioned over that and you've got that as a reference. And this, once you've sorted this out in terms of the position, you should hopefully find that this is quite a nice, easy, relaxed stroke. It shouldn't be too hard, it should be quite relaxing. But really important in the initial stages to get that alignment right. Once you feel comfortable with that, then I think we need to get you progressed onto the 616, which is effectively starting off in a side kicking position, left or right, doesn't matter, and the 6 refers to a count of 6 or 6 kicks. I actually prefer a count of 6, but you can count 6 kicks if you want to do. But the frequency is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when you've done the 6 kicks, then effectively what you do is to initiate a stroke and turn over onto the opposite side. And then stabilise, and then count to 6 again, and a stroke. Stabilise, stroke. But look, in terms of where the breathing is, that the breathing cycle is after you've turned. So the stroke is first, and then the turn, and then the breathing is afterwards. And that effectively is how you would breathe when you're in normal swimming mode anyway. So it's just really a slowed down version of normal swimming, but really focusing on that as an alignment position, and noting that this hand goes straight there. So when your hand goes into the water, aim for it to go straight into the water. Slight reaction when you do the breathing action, but in all the times, just keep your body nice and straight. Again, it should be quite relaxing to do this. Not hard work at all. You can go into the 6-3-6 drill, which is an extension of that. Very similar. 6 kicks, 3 strokes, 6 kicks, 3 strokes. What I want to show you now though is this one, because this really is a key drill for you in terms of catching, and to help develop a good catch and a good propulsive phase. And what you're effectively doing is swimming, but your recovery is under the water. So your arms never leave the water at all. You can see that you use a pull buoy for this. Again, it's not cheating, it's a tool. So use that. Don't worry too much if you kick, but really focus on your hands and try to keep them going in a nice long straight line. Imagine that there's a railway track underneath your shoulders and your hands are reaching down and onto those tracks and pulling through. And really focus on keeping your elbows really high. So reach forwards, down onto the track, pull through with a high elbow and push right the way back. This is one drill that you may find to be quite hard, because you're actually starting to use different muscles than the ones that you normally use. So this is probably physically one of the harder drills to master. So don't worry too much if you do feel out of breath when you do this one. But really effective. I think this is one that really will work for your stroke and help you to make that next step up. Another one that I'll just put on there quickly is sculling. This is a drill that is actually quite difficult to master, and is one that what I think you need to do is to start doing doggy paddle first and then look at this one. And it's one where you actually work in that same position with your arms, so effectively your elbow is higher than your wrist and is higher than your fingers, like in the side kicking position, and effectively just pull through with a figure of 8 stroke. So it really shows you the effects of what's happening when that elbow drops, which is what we saw right at the very beginning when you pushed off. And the problem with doing that dropped elbow is that when it does happen, it becomes very difficult to actually catch properly. And you can see obviously in an extreme case that what it effectively does is breaks you and even pushes you backwards. And so a really good effective drill for doing that is the doggy paddle. Or when you're more competent at the doggy paddle, I would start to look at doing this sculling drill as well. So what I'll do then is I'll put together some swim sessions, and they'll be relatively easy to do in terms of time and effort, but they'll really focus you on doing some technique work that will help your stroke, and it should help you overall in terms of your alignment, effectively your efficiency. But what it will then do is lead to effectively more pace, if you like, so much faster swimming. technique wise, you really need to look at it in terms of developing that at the same time as developing your normal swimming. So the sessions that I'll do and put together for you will really cover all of the different drills that we just looked at and help you to really work on how you develop your stroke and improve that catch. Cheers.